Looking at the Kenyan market powering ahead, but when you look at economic growth, not that well, sitting at 3.5% in the first quarter of 2011 from 5.1% in the same period last year.
Yeah, I mean, the growth was lower, and it's also, even if by that quarter, if you're looking at the micro indicators at the time, that is construction, car sales, everything was a bit slower in Q1, and that pointed to an economic contraction. And furthermore, if you look at credit-sensitive industries such as financial intermediation and construction, they also performed rather poorly. And of note also is that there was a construction in the non-food manufacturing of almost 0.7%, the slowest since 2003. And that really pointed to a slowdown in the economy, and it points to the fact that the MPC might now have to focus on its other mandate, because it has a dual mandate of both inflation and growth. And it's about time, I think, to focus on growth now.
Looking at the MPC, we have that MPC rate decision later on this week. What are your expectations on this front? We did have inflation falling back, like I said a little earlier.
I think my view is based on what ought to happen rather than what will happen, because I think calling MPC decisions over the last few months has been a bit difficult because the targets keep moving. But from where I come from, I think from where I stand, what's important is to foster growth and to at least create some momentum in the economy, because I think by and large the inflation picture is much better than it was last year. And if you look forward, crude prices are expected to fall due to slower Chinese growth. And I think from that perspective, then they should start turning more accommodative with regards to interest rates.
Now more accommodative with regards to interest rates. Looking at Capturua and Williamson's tea out with the results yesterday, blaming the dry weather conditions on the drop in profits in its results. Your thoughts on the type of results that came out?
I think the results were pretty good if you look at them from an operational perspective, especially with regards to Capturua, because with Capturua, the biggest changes came in the change in biological assets, and which is not a cash effect. So from an operational perspective, they did better than they did in the previous year, and that's why they maintained the dividend at 7 shillings and 50 cents. So I think operationally the companies are still sound. And I think now the only thing that's affecting them is the cold weather right now that could affect some of their stocks. But going forward, I think if tea prices stabilize, then I think they should be okay and they'll post profit growth this year.
Sitting on 125 shillings, that's for Capturua tea. Your thoughts on the stock going forward? Are you perhaps buying into it right now?
With regards to a lot of these tea stocks and agricultural stocks, the liquidity is not good for someone who might be expecting to trade later on. I think the best approach when you're looking at these agricultural counters is to get in almost on a very long-term basis and just gain from the dividends. And I think in terms of return on equity, there are better opportunities elsewhere, including some of the banking and commercial stocks at the moment. So I don't think I'd be trading in Capturua at the moment, primarily just because of the return on equity that I can get elsewhere.
Let's look at some of the stocks that made quite significant moves in yesterday's trading session. We had Diamond Trust Bank, with most investors really taking position ahead of that rights issue. Your thoughts on Diamond Trust Bank and how the rights issue is likely to fare?
I think the rights issue will do well because I've got a very strong stable of investors. And it's a strong company. The rights issue is well priced at a huge discount to the current trading price. So I think a lot of investors will get into this and expect full subscription, because the banking industry by and large is expected to do well, primarily due to the expansion into East Africa and the growth in financial sector deepening. So I think Diamond Trust rights issue would be a good investment.
Which other stocks will you be having your eye on for the rest of the week?
I think it's good to have an eye on Kenya Airways. It's actually very surprising that the company has, this counter has done as well as it has, because a lot of people have the expectation that given the current global environment and the fact that the rights issue is unsuccessful, that the price would drop. But it's good to watch that it's rising. There are also some other interesting opportunities, even with Crown Berger, Kaya in general, which are currently selling at a very low price to earnings ratios. And we expect once monetary policy turns more accommodative, these counters could do well, maybe by mid-2013 and going forward. And basically some of the banking stocks such as KCB, NIC Bank, and even Barclays at the current price.